everyone, it's Clarice, and today I'm going to be reviewing Off to Be the Wizard, which is the first book in the Magic 2.0 series by Scott Meyer. Here we follow the story of a guy named Martin who in the start of the series discovers a file. But this isn't just any file, it's a file that allows him to manipulate reality. Because this file essentially is reality, he figures out that the world is just a computer program. Upon discovering this, he did what any normal guy would do. He made use of it to make his life easier. But when he fails to stick to his original plan of just laying low, he is forced to escape to the Middle Ages and try to survive by posing as a wizard through these magical abilities that he was able to develop through this file. When I first heard about the premise of this book, I wanted to read it immediately. I went into it kind of thinking that it was a sci-fi book. But the more that you read it, the more that you realize this is actually more of a fantasy book. I guess I immediately assumed because it was related to computers, it was science fiction. But then I realized that, you know how in Mistborn, the powers are basically being fueled by metal? Well, this is kind of the same thing, except the powers, their source comes from this computer program. As a computer major, any book involving computers or programming is immediately a book that I would be interested to read. Like Ready Player One, which is a book that I absolutely loved, it felt a lot like a video game for most of the book, which is something I really appreciated. It wasn't as good as Ready Player One, because it's hard for any book to be better than Ready Player One, at least in my opinion. But again, it did have that video game vibe, and was also still really fast-paced and really nerdy, and referenced a lot of nerdy topics, but also some pop culture as well. And it was also so imaginative, even though it made use of a lot of these computer concepts and programming terms. I guess it's the concept, being able to manipulate a file to become a wizard and use it for superpowers is just such a cool concept. You know, like how people do app development for Android and Apple products? It's like that, except they're doing superpower development. I just found that so cool, and I wasn't disappointed at all by how they went about executing it and all the different ways that they made use of this. Things like manipulating the part of the code that determines your location and altitude to keep you up and flying essentially, and manipulating the part of the code that determines the time to allow you to time travel. And that is just scratching the surface. They did so many other cool things with magic and then related it to how they needed to manipulate the code in order to do that, and I loved it so much. I still think you would enjoy it if you didn't know a thing about programming or computers. It was also a really funny book. At first I was a bit iffy about the writing and the voice because I couldn't really get into it, but later on, I guess the dialogue I really enjoyed when there were more people, because there were some conversations that were just so sarcastic and so snarky that I couldn't help but laugh and just thoroughly enjoy those conversations. As I mentioned previously, one of the powers that they made use of is time travel, and I really liked how they used time travel. Like, it made sense to me. I really enjoy it when a book and its concepts can make sense. I like it when books explain things in a way that they're not trying to tell you how the world's supposed to work, but instead they're describing something to you that simply is. Like, this is really how things work and we're just telling you how it is. It didn't feel like they were trying to convince me, if that makes sense, because I didn't need convincing, because it was real. The few times that I had questions in my mind about how certain things would logically make sense or how certain things didn't add up later in the book, it was eventually explained. So by the end of it, I don't think I had any more doubts or questions about how this world worked. But at the same time, I'm still so interested with how much more they can do with this world and with these concepts that I'm really looking forward to reading the next books in this series, hopefully soon. But while it was a really fun book, I appreciate it when fun books aren't shallow and they have some sort of depth to them. And this book definitely did. They didn't ignore the fact that the world just being a computer program, bring up any questions about the morality of certain things. Like, how are you supposed to treat a world and its people if you know that none of it is real? Is there a limit to what is morally right when, again, nothing is real and when nothing you do actually matters in the grand scheme of things. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. It's fun for people that like computers, but it's still extremely fun and extremely just imaginative for people who aren't into computers, and I do definitely recommend it, and I also look forward to reading the next books in this series. If you have read this book or are thinking of reading this book, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and also feel free to friend me and follow me in the social media accounts that I will link down below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!